I will literally not want to be here if I can't create art. So to me, it doesn't matter if someone's buying it or not, because I just need to create it. I'm like, I'm in a museum in a space that I grew up in. And so for me, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to as many schools as possible now. They just need to know that someone in their community is in a museum.
What do you think was like one top mistake maybe that you did the times that you didn't get a grant?
Recently. Yeah.
Welcome to La Artisteada with Kiara González Duran. Hi everyone, welcome to our new season of La Artisteada. Obviously I am ecstatic about this because we are now collaborating with Univision 34 on this next season where we're gonna bring amazing artists. And today we are in our first episode. I am excited to introduce you to someone that you've probably already seen across some of our work. Yulissa Mendoza. They are a photographer, installation artist, and creative strategist, and their work has been featured on the LA Times. They also have an exhibition at the Cheech Museum, and we're gonna talk all about that. And most recently, their work appeared on the Chicano camera culture. Welcome, Yulissa!
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
We're so excited. Oh my gosh, how did I forget to also mention that you led, I said that they've seen your work, but they led our Grants 101 first ever Artisteada workshop. Thank you for being back.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm grateful to continue to work with you.
Oh, thank you. So first question, let's get ourselves grounded. Thinking about everything, all the work, everything that you achieved recently. How are you really?
That's a great question. I feel really good. I feel like I'm at a point where I can see all of the groundwork and all of the foundation that I've been building really start to, I feel like I can start stepping. And then I also have really great friends, like the ones who are here today, who are supporting me and just like seeing that and the collaborations that have been happening and seeing everyone at their like stepping points and being able to work alongside people. I feel like I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, now let's go. Like I feel so ready because everyone is just doing really great things, really cool things, and I am excited to just be in the middle of it. So I think I'm doing really well. I'm feeling really excited, and yeah.
Oh, that's so lovely. I think that's something that's very powerful, at least for me, that I am not from LA or from like you're from Muscoy.
Uh-huh.
You said San Bernardino?
See.
San Bernardino. I cannot say that in English. I won't even try.
Oh yeah.
San Bernardino. Like something about this area. I think it's just like people are just so incredibly collaborative. And to me, I think that it's something that I've learned through the many conversations I've had with a lot of artists that are like from around within a 2 hour radius of this area, that like people really support each other. And I think that that's something that I truly admire. And we're gonna talk about all of these collaborations in a second, but we're gonna start literally in the very beginning of your life. You're from Muscoy. I was doing some research last night, and I learned that that is one of the communities that has the highest concentration of Mexican Americans in the entire country. Can you tell us a little bit about that, what your upbringing was, and when did you start like loving art? Or understanding, I guess, what art was around you?
Yeah, so Muscoy is the unincorporated area of San Bernardino. And so a lot of that means that we have a lot of land, which is very rare now to have in the States. And so I grew up on the ranchos. Like my grandparents, if you walk to the back of one of their ranchos, you go over and you could see the front of the other one. And they didn't plan that. They just happened to be living next to one another. And so growing up, like I would be in the fruit trees with the mulberries, the guayabas, my favorite, limones, like everything you could think of, and also just eating on the land. Like we ate all of our cows, we have the birria, carnitas in the ground. Like that is just the lifestyle that I grew up with. And also to add more context into like the landscape of Muscoy, it is the area where horses and cars still share the roadways to this day. So it's really ingrained in the architecture. So like when you go to the liquor store, you can tie your horse up to the poste that's right outside and then go in and get your stuff. And so that's how I spent like my time growing up, is with my grandpa on his horse, going to the liquor store, just going around, or with my cousins playing in all of the fruit trees, playing with all of the animales. And I feel like where the art started to come in is I would see it with my dad a lot, because he would draw in this journal and then sometimes he would like give it to me to do something and then he would take it back and do something and then we would like go back and forth. And
Of the same drawing.
same drawing or different ones, or like it was just very playful. And I don't think that's something that I've realized up until like very recently, where that's kind of where it started, or even just in the break rooms at my mom's work, and that's all I would be doing is drawing, because they had me really young, and so I would go to work with them all the time. And so through that, I feel like I started getting more into art and was always artistically inclined. Like I would be that person in class who would have like my arms all like just drawings on me with pen drawings.
You were the tattoo artist. You were.
I mean, I have been. I've done a few tattoos in my time. Are they good? For me. But yeah.
Okay, so you started like trying out different mediums. And something that I love about your career is exactly that, right? You're really a really great artist in like different senses. And then also we're gonna get to your work, your exhibit at the Cheech Museum, that I loved learning about the background behind that. But when did you start? Did you think you were gonna pursue a career as an artist?
I think I've always wanted to do something artistically inclined. Like when I was growing up, I wanted to be a cake decorator, not a baker, but the decorator. And so I remember starting a cake decorating business when I was in like 6th grade ish. And all of the tias, all of the tios, I would always go to the parties and I'd be like, I'll make a cake for you. Were they delicious? No. I just wanted to decorate the cakes, and I would do like I even took like piping classes, and like I loved doing that. And then it wasn't until like sometime in college area where I started drawing a lot. So something that I don't mention often is that what used to be under the alias of lavender art, because I really love lavender and I use florals as a way to document stories. And so I really took like an anthropological lens on storytelling. And I used to do murals and I used to draw and I used to like actually sell all of my artwork through that form. I no longer do that, but then at the same time, I started developing like my photo style and really taking photos of folks. And I think it's kind of like, it's always been a balance of like more traditional art as well as like the photo. I see them as two different things still, but they're always like hand in hand and ingrained into my lifestyle and every day. And they've just been evolving ever since.
Oh, well, okay. I want to get back a little bit. I'm like,
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about you selling your work, but before that, I think sometimes we talk about parent support, and it sounds like your parents were supportive of you exploring different mediums. Were they supportive of you pursuing a career in the art space? Because they were like so supportive, right? Of like painting and like being creative or your cake business. Do you think that that meant for them we're going to support Yulissa as an artist, or it was more of a creative outlet?
I think it was definitely more of a creative outlet, and also because of the age that I was when I was like doing all of these explorative, creative things, it was really fun for me to be able to do. And then once it started becoming like, no, I really want to do this as a career, that's a little bit of a different story. But They have recently just started showing up to my shows, which has been new and different and exciting. But really just raw, like it hasn't always been there. And so it's slowly starting to look different, which I'm excited to explore that and to see more of what that looks like. I would say that the most support has come from my grandparents specifically, especially because they were my main caretakers growing up since my parents did have me really young. So I spent a lot of my time with them. Um, and they're like, yeah, just do whatever you want, or they'll like support me and like, yeah, just go get this, or if you need this. And I feel like that's just like the community I grew up around too. Like, and even seeing like my grandparents interact with their friends, it's like, okay, you need something, I'll do it. Like, and it's just that like exchange. And so there's some sort of like unspoken just care for one another with my grandparents that they don't really understand what I'm doing, but they're there.
Yeah, you know, I think that's the story, like of not understanding this last only
Yeah.
just this last part of not understanding what like creators are doing, and then like, okay, like go on, and you're like, yes, I know what I'm doing. I just trust me.
Yeah.
You studied cultural anthropology. First, can you tell us one what that is, and then also when you started studying this, was it at the same time that you started selling your artwork, and how did this impact your creativity?
Yeah. Um, I think for me, in the starting point of anthropology, it's going to college and not knowing what I wanted to do
Mm.
and not knowing career paths or where that could take you or how the system worked at all and just trying to figure it out. So when I chose cultural anthropology, it was really simply just off the basis of I want to travel. And I think that that is something like I saw Nat Geo and I was like, they travel and that's anthropology. Therefore, I guess I'll do that. But as I started taking the courses, I realized that I was learning so much about how the world operates. And so anthropology, cultural anthropology at its very bare basic, it's just the study of patterns in within cultures. And I think the best form of it is studying patterns within your own small circles because it could be super big, it could be cities, it could be how cars drive. Like even anthropology can extend to the tech world, it could extend to anywhere. Um, but for me, the best sort of outcomes come from very much our circles. And I feel like that's kind of what I have learned that I've been and recognized that I have been doing with my artwork, and it's been kind of translating in that way. Um, and you know, people always say, "How do you use your degree?" or "How are you going to use it?" I never realized how much it actually applies to all of the work that I did, and I'm so grateful that I ended up taking those courses, even though I wasn't sure what I was getting into, because now I feel like I'm doing my own ethnographic surveys each time that I'm creating an art piece. It's just a different form of showing all of the results and archiving.
You know, I think it's so interesting that you say that, because to me also, whenever I told someone, and it's interesting, whenever I told someone that I was studying Chicano studies, people would be, and it wasn't in a very positive way. It was a very condescending way.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what are you gonna do with that? Like, what are you gonna work? And I remember that I was like, I always felt this need to kind of justify that I was also studying international development, which also sometimes, depending on who it was like condescending or not. But it's like, oh my gosh, that need to like consistently have to justify what you're doing, and I'm sure that also relates to you as an artist, right? Of like,
Yeah.
people not understanding. You spoke earlier about people not understanding, maybe like your parents not understanding exactly what you do, but it's that constant kind of like over explaining as that what you're doing is legitimate. And I think that to me that helped me even in like when I chose to quit the corporate world, of like, oh, I'm ready for people to like question whether or not my decision was good. Like, how has this impacted also like your career as an artist?
Yeah, I think this has been something more recent where I've started claiming the word artist, especially because where I come from, San Bernardino, the Inland Empire as a whole, a lot of us were never told that that could be a career path, or were shown that that was even an option. And so now I take it upon myself, and it's really important to carry that label of artist. So that way, I hope that other people feel empowered to be able to do that.
Your first art that you started selling, was it, tell us a little bit about that process, maybe as an adult, because you did tell us that you sold cake, so, and that was a creative thing on its own. But when you started like creating, maybe painting, was it paintings that you started selling, or was it your career as a photographer that started
Mm,
getting you commissioned work?
it was both photo and the floral artwork at the same time. And so my floral artworks, I would get seeded paper and I would draw on that, and I would sell like banner, poster style seeded paper artworks. Um, and that was at a community.
Excuse the
Yeah.
ignorance. What's seeded paper?
So seeded paper is actually handmade paper, but it has floral seeds in it.
Oh,
And so I love the idea of creating things that won't be there for long. And so I would highly encourage people to go and plant it right after they bought it, or like, just whatever they felt like doing, because I think art can be like enjoyed for that very small period of time, and that's enough. Um, and then simultaneously doing that like photo work. And I think that's where I started to feel more of sparks from artwork for me. And that's sort of why I started going like I really did fall deep in love with the artwork that I was doing, the floral artwork, but it was really photo where I really wanted to spend more time, and I really wanted to explore that because I had taken photos of people in college, like my roommates, my friends, aspiring models, and then it got to a point of like I was drawing and I was doing photos. I would draw and I would draw alone all the time. And I realized that that was an art form that really could only be done alone.
mhm,
But I had this other thing that I could do with other people. And that's why I started to really take on photography, because I feel like I'm a person who loves collaboration. And I say that my photo work and now my new form of artwork is my excuse to hang out with people. Like at the bare minimum, that's it. My excuse to hang out with people, my excuse to collaborate with people, to create art with people, because I feel like it's artception. And that's what I call it. It's like I love being able to work with a hair artist, a makeup artist, and all of them have their different art forms. And then I get to create my own different art form around what they're doing. We get to create these worlds together. Um, and so yeah, that's when I started move more into that, and that's when I started selling more of like going into the photo realm and really selling artwork, and then working with like musicians, which has been some path that I never thought I would be on. But being able to sell my artwork in that way, I was like, I get to collaborate and I get to like make money off of this. Cool,
yeah.
that's perfect.
Yeah, but can you recall like that, maybe that first time that you
Oh my god,
got paid to take pictures of someone?
I feel like the first time I can't really recall it. And I
Mhm.
think the reason being is because it was probably like a graduation photo shoot or something.
Mm,
Something that I wasn't really drawn to. Like it wasn't my ultimate path of how I wanted
mhm,
to be seen in photography. But I was like, that's cool. Now what can I do with it next?
mm,
But I do remember the first times that I got like my artwork to be sold.
mhm,
And that was one of my friends over the pandemic. They just happened to buy a piece for me. And I was like, really? Like, you want something that I made and like took the time to like, and that I put like all of my effort into, and that is like, it just feels so tightly, deeply personal to me, and you want that. And this person, they are a school teacher. And now, whenever I see them posting from their office, they have pieces of all of my artwork up. And so it's really cool to see someone who has that now past side of me,
mhm.
and to have different pieces, and it's just like an archive on their wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This literally just brought up a memory, because I was also like I guess, yeah, I was really good at painting and creating stuff. And I was in an art class, and I remember I made, for the class, we did well, we had to do like a multi-medium painting in which you had to like divide it by four and had like different mediums. And I did a Frida Kahlo with like different stuff. And I remember this other student was like, "Can I buy it from you?" And I literally, this memory has had been forever deleted from my memory space in my brain. But I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. But that kind of like, did you feel like that legitimized the work for your next steps, for you to take maybe more risks?
Mm. I think that because I have always wanted to be an artist, that it's something for me. I'm like, I will literally not want to be here if I can't create art. So to me, it doesn't matter if someone's buying it or not because I just need to create it.
Mm.
So the monetary anything doesn't legitimize me as an artist, which is probably why I'm having a hard time recalling those moments because I'm just like, I just need to create it. It needs to be out. And if someone sees it, great. But like, I just need to create it for myself.
Mm. I absolutely love that, because I think that something that, like, a concept that I think about often as artists is that, like, that idea of like what legitimizes your work. Is it you just creating, which should be enough, but because of the systems in which we live, it's often needs to be legitimized, and something as simple literally as receiving likes on social media, right? How do you think that took you to the next step, and how do you, like, if then external things don't make you feel like validated per se, how do you continue to like what makes you feel validated in your process as an artist and to keep growing and challenging yourself?
I think it's the people that I create with. For me, because again, it's like a reason to be able to create with other people. And so when people want to create with me and they want to create something and allow me to take a step into their world, that I feel so honored to do that. Especially like with some of the musicians that I work with. And I'm like, you want me to take time into your world and for us to like bridge our worlds together, and that is something special to create something together. um and so like I feel like for me in the collaboration process and to really feel seen by others and vice versa, that is where everything becomes legitimized to me, because if we can create worlds together, and if we can put something out where we are both in there, then that's everything to me, because then again, I don't care if anyone else sees it. It's I created something with someone, and that's beautiful in and of itself, and I got to spend that time and those moments with those folks.
Yeah, who's the first music artist? Because to be completely honest, I did not know that you worked with music artists. So can you talk a little bit about that and the type of work that you do with, like, in the music industry?
Yeah. So the first folks that I ever photographed, Sancha was my first ever musical artist. And I will always credit Diana Diaz as the first person to get me into all of the music realm, because photographing Sancha was the thing that allowed me to photograph all of these other musicians that now I photograph them pretty consistently, and I've been able to develop these relationships with these musical artists. And I would say my main person is Lupita Infante. I love photographing her. We just photographed her next album that's coming out, I believe May 9th, Aunque Me Duela. And so we just did that a few days ago. But to me, it's like I get to grow with these artists. And that is what I like hold near and dear, is that I get to like have that opportunity to see someone grow within their art form, and that we get to grow together. And just seeing how people come in front of the camera one time and then I could see them the next time and they've grown so much and so much more confident in themselves, and how then we can create and elevate together each photo session that we have. And those are the times where I can really feel proud because I could see that documentation process of how we've grown together and how we've both pushed our art forms together.
I think that's fascinating because I think that a lot of maybe when you're starting in the industry, your goal, and I'm just generalizing, right?
Yeah.
But many artists, their goal is to work with people that are up here. and then you're like, oh, I want to be seen by this other person. But a lot of people like Issa Rae say like work across, right? Like network across. And I think throughout the years that I've been in different creative industries, I've seen the value in building together, and how a lot of people, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing to see how everybody of like people that I interviewed in the very beginning, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're like growing so much together with models, like also other photographers with models that were like starting out as well, but now they are growing, and it's very beautiful. And something that you mentioned your friend, where I don't know if it's your friend, but the person that recommended you. How did that relationship come about? Because I also think that more people should be talking about hitting your friends for different opportunities. So can you talk about that relationship?
Yeah, I agree. For me, it was that friend who first bought my artwork.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
So
that's
they have been one
beautiful.
of, I would say, my biggest supporters in my artwork in all of the different forms it has taken place. Their name is Vale. And they were the ones who were like, I have this friend who I think you would like to like work with and create stuff with. I'm just gonna share your Instagrams. And then from there, she was like, I really like your work. I'm working with this artist. Like, can you photograph them? And I was like, yeah, I'll show up. And really, at the end of the day, it's just about showing up for when those opportunities come. Um, and saying yes. And those recommendations, like you're saying, like recommending your friends, it's like, I think the friend is the strongest recommendation you could have because you love your friends, you could trust them, and you know that anyone that they would recommend, they will be a good person on set and they will automatically kind of like vibe with you as well. Because I feel like my times on sets, they're really precious to me. And so when I have a recommendation for a friend, it makes it easier for someone to jump into those intimate worlds. But I think that a lot of my work has come from those friendships and those relationships that I've built because also to create with other people and create such intimate work with folks, like being in front of the camera is an intimate act. And being able to spend the time with them and to have that relationship with them is everything. And so I really, really love and like take the time to get to know people before I end up photographing them for things.
I think it's just so beautiful how you are a very confident person in your process and in how you show up in different spaces. Before I get to talking about like moving on to like you being on the LA Times, your work being on the LA Times, and your work being on a museum like very recently, right? I want to talk about that because I think that's something that a lot of artists maybe can struggle. Even like, I don't know, even me, that I'm not an artist. Like when I get different opportunities, I'm like, will I meet the expectation? And I think specifically when you start getting commissioned work,
Yeah.
it can be a process of, is this work enough? Even though you've done it, even though you like people like it, even though people like you also working with you as a person, I struggle with that. And I know that maybe a lot of artists struggle with that. It seems like you're like very confident in your art form and also in your interaction with other folks and very intentional. How did you get there?
Me by screaming before I get hop on any Zoom call. um, it's really just about going 1, 2, 3, go, and being in that moment. Um, and I would say that I'm very much a shy person at heart. And my art form is like an alter ego almost. And I have to put myself in a 1, 2, 3, go. Now we're in this space. And I always have to remind myself that people are hiring me for a reason. And they're coming to me for a reason. Just as they go to any other photographer, it's because that's what they're really seeking. Because there's plenty of work for everyone, but they chose me, and because they're wanting something specific, they're wanting whatever I'm bringing to the table. And also just having really great friends around me to remind me of that is super important, because it doesn't just come from myself. It comes from all of the folks around me, and seeing them doing their own work as well. And I'm like, no, like if we could do this together. I think it really comes from seeing those externals. I'm like, we got this, we got this. And so yeah, I feel like a lot of that confidence is very much just built up throughout the years and really practicing it. But also it's being in a moment and being very, very present in that moment. And also sticking to, I love to be very intentional about the spaces I create, and I don't want any disruptions to come from that space, because being in front of the camera, again, super intimate. And I need to make sure people are going to feel that really good in front of the camera. So I take that really seriously.
I love that, and I love how you keep talking about your friends and how your friends like that is the like constant validation that you receive from like working and being creative together and pushing each other. But okay, let's now move on to your work in the museum.
Yay.
How did that come about? How did that opportunity? How did you learn about that opportunity, and how did you get it?
Yeah. So for me, I think it, again, friends and just being around in certain spaces. And I had already worked with that museum before, because it is the closest local museum to me. Um, so I had been in the community galleries, and so people there had already been familiar with my work. But it's Maria Esther. She really, really was the person to recommend me and put me into that show, because she had saw my work Madre. And when she saw that, she was like, we need to have you. And so I thank her for really advocating for me in that show, because I didn't have to apply anywhere. I didn't have to do anything on my end. It was truly just word of mouth. And from there, I had a session where I just pitched ideas that I was like working on, things I had in mind, and they're like, okay, we'll take that one. And that was it. It was super simple. But I think, again, that comes from that built up relationships, because to me, going back to like the foundations, it's, I want to create a community where I'm around all of these people long term. And what does that look like? And so it's okay if I'm not in a museum for another however many years, but I know that the opportunity will come, because I trust in the people around me and everything that's been built up. Because then moments like this happen, where now I'm in my first ever museum alongside fabulous historical artists and photographers.
And how did you meet Maria Esther?
So she was the director of the Cheech at the time, and she was the person doing a lot of the work, figuring out which artist to put in the show. And I think just through me having been in the community gallery, and then also talking to everyone who works there naturally.
Like attending? As an attendee or?
I had been, well, yes, attendee, but also in the community gallery portion, I had displayed there twice.
Okay, what does that mean?
And so the Cheech has, as soon as you walk in, they have a community gallery, which is super special, because not a lot of museums have the community in the forefront. And so I think that is already like really valuable to have, especially in that community. And there's these walls that then the community, which is like the Inland Empire artists, are the only people who have access to that space, and they're only people who can show there. And so it's truly the community gallery. And then you go in and you see Cheech's collections, or you see like the shows that will be there, like the one that I'm in, that will be there up until September. So they're a little bit more long term. They change out, but yeah.
And the community gallery, anybody can come and place their art there for people to see? Or does that involve an application process?
Yeah, it involves pitching.
Okay.
So there's one show that I was part of where Emmanuel Camacho Larios and Perry Picasso, they went up and they pitched to Maria. And it was her, when she was the director at the time, they pitched a show to her and she was like, this is great, let's do it. They recently started putting out calls where people can then pitch their ideas and get into the community gallery, but I think it just works differently every time. And I think going back to like, how do you get in? How do artists do it? And more speaking to the artists, it's just, if they put out a call, do it. If they don't, still go up and ask. Always, always ask. And the worst, I mean, people say this all the time, but the worst people can say is no. But people have gotten a lot of opportunities there by just asking.
Yeah, I do ask because exactly that. Like, how can an artist start getting their work? And I think I would love to talk about also museums. Like museums, I was like doing my research. How many people of color are in museums? And
Yeah.
it's so there's a study that about 85% of artists in major U.S. museums are white and 87% are men. And this like really got me to question more like an idea of more like what's it called, kind of like, yeah, more in terms of the concept of being in a museum that is not, this one is Chicano, right?
It's unique. Yeah.
Like, do you think, and you talked about this a little bit earlier, of you not seeking validation of like wanting to be again in a museum, but like what is that conversation around getting your work validated by like major institutions? Is that necessary? Is that necessary as a creative, or can you sustain your creative career with continuing to build in more community centered spaces, and what are the pros and cons of that?
I think it's a both and. While I am in that space, I recognize that it is a really huge privilege and undertaking to be in that space. And to also be in a space that's Chicano oriented and in my own community. It's in the Inland Empire. And that is the validation for me. I'm like, I'm in a museum in a space that I grew up in. And so for me, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to as many schools as possible now. So that way I can talk to all of the students there. Anyone who wants to think about being an artist, never thought to be an artist, like they just need to know that someone in their community is in a museum. And so it's super important to me to have that institutional backing for the next generation. And for them to actually visualize someone who came from their community being there, and to encourage them to go see all of the exhibits, because also that's something else that a lot of folks in my community don't have access to. So I'm really glad that they also do the program where with EBT you could get 4 free tickets, I believe, to the museum, so families can actually go in there. But also whenever someone, educators are in there, I'm like, okay, what time are you going? Because I want to be in there and I want to make sure that the artist is present, because it's also super important that artists are present so you could see people that look like you in these spaces. I think that representation is so, 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 so important. And do I think it's sustainable? I think it's also a yes and, because I think artists need to be in that space so that way the collectors, so that way all of the capital A art folks can see you, but then also for the community work to continue to happen and to get more funding from other folks, so that way that community work can still happen, because then they see that as validation as you being a great artist, which I don't think that determines where you are in your artisthood, but I see the value that it adds to the artwork and to the legitimacy of your work to be able to continue the work that folks are already doing and have been doing. It's just now there's different ways that you can leverage those titles to be able to then get more grants, then get more opportunities to continue the work that you're already doing that was already great.
Like grants.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about that.
Let's do it.
So we recently did that workshop about artists applying for grants, and I thought people were like super curious, and I loved all the questions that people were asking. Can you talk a little bit about that process? Maybe when your expertise
Mm.
Talk a little bit about your expertise with applying to grants. How did you start learning and when you got your first grant? And I love talking about first because I think that the hardest thing, I guess, like the step that kind of like crosses you over, is that first time that things happen, right? Because the first time, I always tell people, like, if you're scared, if you're nervous, if you don't know, like, oh, when to start, do it once, even if you fail, just because in the back of your mind, it feels like, okay, I already did it. Now let's try to do it well.
Yeah.
So, can you talk about the first time maybe that you also got a grant?
Yeah, it's different. It's uncomfy. um, the first time that I got a grant was a micro grant, and it was through the Arts Connection Network in San Bernardino. And so they're providing micro grants up to $500 for, I think it was about 10 to 15 people within the community. I genuinely can't even remember what I applied for at this time.
How long ago was this?
Maybe 2020, 2021.
Okay.
And they ended up being a job that I worked for a few years, and that is how I ended up learning even more about grants. And so through them and just being involved in nonprofit spaces and seeing how those systems work, that is what led me to then apply for more grants, because then I could see what funders needed from the back end, because I technically was the back end, you know? And being able to have access to all of these grant writers who were helping us in the grant writing process, to see how words can be then transformed and to bridge that like language barrier between the people who are accepting the grants and taking the grants and the community. Because I think there is this like gap in language where the grants can be requesting and asking something, and the grantee can be like, well, I don't feel like I fit that, but they do. It's just about finding that language that will then translate for them. And so I've learned a lot of what that gray area looks like and how to have that proper language around community-centered art to be able to access more of those grants. And so it's mainly just about learning the language.
How can someone learn the language, or what are like some top things that you can like say
Yeah.
here at the top of your mind? Like, these are the things that I've noticed recently.
Well, I think learning the language comes from going to those grant sessions that come about when you are applying for a grant. A lot of grants will have, hey, come meet the folks, or info sessions about the grants. That's when you're going to learn about those people putting together the grants. You're going to learn their language. And I think it's important to take note of their language within those info sessions, and to be able to ask them clarifying questions about what the definitions are, because definitions are super different between every organization, every donor. And so when you're actually in that space, I think it's super huge and important you go to those info sessions, so that way they meet you face to face and they have a face to that name that you're putting down. And so that you're able to really decipher what it is that they're asking for. Because again, when they're like writing out all of these grants, you're like, well, I think they mean this, or I think they mean that, but they actually mean something else. And so getting it from them in a way that's, I'm going to say, very human like and easily digestible, will then allow you to then translate it into a digestible way for yourself and then put it into their language.
In your first grant? Oh, you talked about it already, right? Okay. And how was that process of you like continuing to apply and like learning? What do you think was like one top mistake maybe that you did the times that you didn't get a grant?
Oh, recently.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're the expert, Yulissa.
I have to get 100%, huh?
Yeah.
Rating. No, I think it is then learning, because I wouldn't say that I necessarily made a mistake on this grant. I just now know that they weren't looking for people of color.
Okay.
And it's knowing that who they're looking for and knowing where I'm applying at. And understanding the context a lot, and recognizing, like you're bringing up all of the statistics, they might put a call out for everyone, but they don't mean everyone. Again, learning the language. And so I didn't get a grant, but I'm also not I am upset that I didn't get it, but I'm not upset because I understand why I didn't get it. And it's not my art. That's the reason. It's all on them. Um, but I think it was also then understanding the language of they were looking for something that was already done, and I was trying to put on a whole production while we were there. And so now I know I'm still going to apply for it next time, but now I know that I need to come with a concept that is already finished in terms of it can be shown within the next month, not that I'm going to build it out while I'm there. But yeah.
You know, I love that you say that because I think that that requires a lot of like understanding of self. Because I had applied some time ago for a job that I was like I did amazing for this interview for this like job interview, and I know my work, I know my expertise, and to be completely like at peace with myself, if they don't choose me, I know that I was not, and this is a different case because I do understand that there's specific things that are looking for more white folks, white like experiences, I guess, that pushes out people of color from these spaces, right? But in this moment, to me, I was like, if they don't choose me, honestly, I am at peace because they're probably looking for something or something different or for a different level of expertise. But now that I think about this example, I'm like, it's a different situation because I think it was just like more generic job experience, and I saw who they got because it was like for content stuff, and I'm like, I love that for them. Yes, this person is probably from the community, and I love that. But there's other scenarios that I think your experience was a little different. And you've mentioned that you are a community made artist.
Yeah.
Can you explain what that means for you today?
Yeah. I think it's all of the work that I have done within my community and having so many collaborators within my work. And again, it's like my excuse to be able to create with others, even within the not my photography realm, but now like my artwork, my installation realm, my fashion realm. I love collaborating with designers, with artists to create my pieces. So whenever you see any of my installations, I didn't create that by myself. I know that I don't harbor all of the knowledge to be able to create those things. And I'm always going to seek out all of the experts in those fields. Or I love collaborating with artists in a way that, like, you don't do this necessarily, but I'm still going to push both of our bounds and ask you to, if you're down to create something new from your own art form. Like, for example, one of my longest collaborators is Veronica Preciado, and she works with steel. She's a welder, which is really rare to have a woman in that field and also doing it within an artistic way. Um, and so she typically creates very like luchador masks. But I asked her to create a corset or for me. And so we had that as a fashion piece, which she normally doesn't create fashion oriented things, but she did it so well, you know? And so collaborating with folks like that, collaborating with folks in ways that, let's say, Lily Solier, I've collaborated with her as a photographer. I've collaborated with her. Now I've created a short film with her. And
is that the series that you've been posting on social media?
no, actually, no.
I love it. I'm like invested, and it's so interesting because I think that it's so quiet, and I think it's fascinating, like how quiet but engaging it is. Because on social media, things like first 3 seconds, you need to get people's attention, but literally every time I see you, like on my phone, and it's just so quiet and peaceful and calm, I stay through it all.
I love that. Thank you. But also, I think it goes hand in hand with the things that I create are slow. Like that short film, so slow. We had people see it before it even came out, and they're like it's a little like slow. Like you should make like the camera like start to zoom in slowly. And those were the notes that we were getting. And I was like, no, I have a like very specific like I know what I want, and it's gonna stay like that because that's how it was for me growing up when I was looking at the trees. And I need people to just sit there with it because there was nothing but time in that moment. And I want to recreate that. And so it's creating these relationships with people who understand you as a person and understand the context you come from for one another, because then when it comes to that day on the set, it's so easy to be able to create with one another, to not have to explain things, not have to spend the time explaining things, because they're like, yeah, you said you needed that, I'm going to do that. And you do that for one another. Or even if it makes it easier, I get hangry, people are like, you need a granola. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Okay, thank you for letting me know. But it's like that relationship building and that collaboration process, like it makes the set so much smoother. It makes it super intimate. And like, I have been so privileged to have such great sets, to work with so many amazing people, that I've assisted on some sets before, and those are random things that I haven't had prior relationships with those people. I just go on, and I've heard aren't the sets so boring always? And I'm like, no, actually I can't relate, because I've never really done that before. Like, I've never really been on sets before. I love creating with people. I love being in these environments. Like, collaboration is everything. And to me, it's the more I collaborate with people in my community, especially in the IE, like, I believe that through collaboration, we're going to be able to grow together. And that's all that I want to create, is collaboration within the organizations, collaboration within the artistry. But I make sure that if I'm going out and I'm creating something, I'm going to hire out someone from the IE. I'm going to make sure that that person is from the IE, because my goal is for my whole team to be from the IE, because there are so many special artists that come from there, whether they're wanting to do that as a career or not. I just want to collaborate with folks from that area who want to expand themselves a little bit more.
I love that. And you said collaborating a lot. So let's talk about who do you want to be, what creative of color do you want to collaborate with next?
Mm, so many. One that's very, very immediate is Fuerza Regida, because they specifically were, when they were starting out, because we come from the same area, we're both from San Bernardino, and that's partially the reason. When they were starting out, they would play in my grandma's backyard.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, how? Why? Tell us the story.
Because so Muscoy, something really, really special about it is that it's like one of those low-key music scenes where a lot of people from Mexico, they know about it. They'll always come out, and there's like the flyer parties. There's always people like mariachi, bandas, because you could have that in your backyard because you have space for that. And there's the jaripeos, there's everything that goes on there. And so even folks like Peso Pluma, that's where he would go hang out when he was first like starting out. So there are a lot of really great artists that come from that area, or who recognize that area and who go there. And so by Fuerza Regida playing in those backyards that they always talk about, having the flyer parties, they were always in Muscoy. And so I think it'd just be a full circle moment to bring them back to those spaces, especially because they're doing that tour where it is back in time. And they're always talking about San Bernardino in general. And then also, I would love to photograph, and then going out to Mexico, I would love to photograph any of Sanchez Cain's designs, because I think that her work is beautiful in the way that he just like talks about masculinity and creates designs and art installations around that, also with traditional Mexican objects, and just talks about the beautiful and the mundane around them, is gorgeous. And also Carlos Villapudua, who I'm wearing today.
Oh, I love that.
I have yet to meet him in person, but my goal is to create something with them in the future. They're from New York. They live out there. They shipped this out for me to wear it today.
Wait, to wear it today?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so we've been creating this really fun relationship where I only know them through all of their fashion, all of the pieces that they've created. But I want to collaborate them and get to know them in person so bad, because I just know that they're an amazing human being even through wearing their creations.
Oh, I absolutely love this, and I need to look the last two people up because I hadn't heard of them. But with Fuerza Regida, I would also love to have them on the podcast because I'm like all the work that they're doing for the community and how they've grown so much. But yeah, you're right. They always talk about San Bernardino, and I think that that is just so part of their identity. But I love that they like show up for the community and are outspoken for the community, and I think that not a lot of artists do that when they reach that level.
Yeah.
And so I love them too.
Yeah.
So hopefully you work with them, and then hopefully we have Fuerza Regida, the whole band here, and we talk about how they worked with you.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. That's the goal.
Una red de conexiones. But okay, so last question.
Yeah.
What do you hope more creatives get to learn about being a creative of color in today's climate?
I think trust in themselves, because I think we're fed a lot of these ideas of what it is to be a creative or what it takes to be a creative, how that's supposed to look. And I think the more that we trust in ourselves, the more that we can just create and let it be and really, really tap into that creative energy when we can't hear any of that noise that's going on around us. I'm going to relate it to runner's high right now. But when you're just running and that's all you can see, and that you could just feel your breath and you're going the fastest you ever have, that is what I hope that more people can tap into and really, really feel within themselves and learn within themselves and get to experience. Because I think tapping into that is what creates really, really beautiful artwork.
I love that, and I love your calmness, and I love your confidence, and I learn so much from you. And I also like I've seen how your community supports you, like community. And also like with the workshop that we did, like
Yeah.
I have to say, like most of the people that were there because of you, and I think that that is just so powerful when people like literally also show up for the work that you're doing. Is there any last thing that you would like to share with the world before we wrap up the episode?
Oh my God. Yeah. Um, I think just in relation to my work and where I come from, and just super important to acknowledge the Inland Empire as a whole and how Muscoy is slowly starting to see the effects of the logistics industry. And so I just wanted to note that effect slowly starting to happen, and to see that take place more in my work, because that's something that also I feel is very important to speak on, but also show through my artwork and see how I can collaborate with folks who are out of my realm, whether it's scientists or activists, organizers, because I believe that keeping a community safe will take everyone outside of me. So if anyone would like to do artwork or collaborate or just educate me, I would love that.
I love it, and yes, it's a community effort. You know, everything that we do requires a community to achieve. So thank you for being part today of this community of La Artisteada. I'm just so honored. I was so happy that you said yes to being our first guest of the season. So thank you so much, Yulissa, for being here. And I hope that people reach out to collaborate and work, because that's what La Artisteada is all about. Also, I forgot to mention, but for the grants, if people are like, what how do I apply, how do I start this, we're gonna have a workshop coming up, so make sure to be there. Think that if you also don't know how to start looking for grants, we also have a group chat on our Instagram, where we share a bunch of grants for all types of creative. So if you're in music, a photographer, or in film, we share literally all of the grants that come up on our feed. So make sure to join us, reach out to us, and we'll just click at you. But thank you so much for being here on our first episode of this new season. I hope that our conversation left you inspired to build your own creative career. And if you have any questions, we are a community, so feel free to reach out to us. Feel free to reach out to Yulissa, because we are here to support each other. So thank you so much for being here, and I hope that you stay ready for our second episode coming up too. Thank you. Yay!
Make sure to subscribe and let us know how your art is impacting the world around you on our social media channels at la.artisteada.
This episode was made in collaboration with Univision 34.
The amazing team behind it, Erin Jimenez, Diego Lopez de Anda, and myself, Kiara. See you on the next episode.